Right. Hi everyone. Good evening. My name is Siddharth, and I'm a digital forensic analyst from Third Eye Techno Solutions. Right. So, today's webinar is basically based upon the password recovery, which we can, perform for. You can call it as password recovery or password cracking, as uh, you know, as it meets a requirement or whatever you might like to say. Right, so I'll just present my screen in a bit and then we'll start with the webinar. Right, so I hope my screen is visible to all. So again, let us start with the today's webinar. It is basically based on password recovery, and the tool we'll be using or the open source, the tool we would be using is called as Hashcat, right? So the logo of Hashcat is what I have added over here, as you can see on your left and your right hand side on the screen. Then before I start with the webinar, let me just give you a short disclaimer that all any knowledge which is being shared over here is provided solely for educational purposes. Neither the teacher nor the provider of the information, anyone else, assumes no responsibility for any misuse or the misconduct or any inappropriate use of the knowledge or the guidance which is being provided over here, and it is essential to use this information responsibly and in compliance with all applicable laws and ethical standards. Meaning that whatever I will be teaching you over here or whatever I will be telling you over here in this webinar shouldn't be used for any sort of illegal purposes, whether it be for anything like for hacking, cracking, whatever the thing might be. So this is a short disclaimer. Now let us start with what actually Hashcat is. So as the slide says over here, the first things first. Now what is Hashcat? Now Hashcat is basically a password cracking or password recovery utility. It is rather a multi-threaded utility. Now which will allow you to configure the number of threads which actually reside in your central processing unit, or as you may call it CPU, and limits the execution based on priority. Now the priority, what by priority do I mean is that suppose there are number of files you want to recover the passwords of. So what is your topmost priority? Which file do you want to prioritize over the other ones? So it allows you to do that. Also, it is one of the fastest or the world's most fastest password recovery tool, open source, right? It supports over 300 plus hashing algorithms. Now, when we talk about hashing algorithms, these vary from MD4, MD5. Then there are various, different hashing algorithms. And hashing algorithms are nothing but mathematical calculations which are being performed, to derive a fixed length of string, which ensures that whatever you are getting is not altered in any matter, right? So since it is not being altered in any other matter, it means that the hash which we get of a particular file, it can be used against it as well. We'll be seeing that in a while. That what do I mean by it? So it supports over 300 plus hashing algorithms such as your MD4, your MD5, your SHA-1, SHA-2, SHA-512, and many other hashing algorithms. Also, the a big plus point for Hashcat is that it is available for almost all types of operating systems, whether it be your Windows, whether it be your Linux, whether it be your Mac OS, or any other flavors of Unix or Linux-based operating systems, right? So now the next question arises that yes, I got to know what Hashcat is, and I also got to know about the disclaimer and all. Now the next question arises is that how can I install it on my system? Like how can I start performing this password recovery you're talking about? So if you are using a Windows-based platform, suppose you have a laptop and it is a very high-end laptop, right? And you want to use it on Windows. So what you can do is you can simply download the binaries or the executable which is present on the Hashcat website. And simply, how can you download it? simply go on to your any web browser, whatever you might like, whether it be Windows Edge, Chrome, Firefox, or Brave, or anything. Just type hashcat.net. Hashcat means like HASHCAT, and then simply click on the download binaries link, and from there you can download it. Download this particular hashcat tool, and you're ready to go. Then, if you're operating any sort of Linux environment-based operating systems, if you're using Kali Linux by default, for example, if you love to, explore the cybersecurity or the forensics part of this area, so if you are very much familiar with Kali Linux, then it is already available on it by default, and you do not need to install it. It is already there for you. You just have to, give the appropriate commands, and from there you can start your password recovery. If you are using any Ubuntu, any version of Ubuntu, whether it be 18 point something or the latest one, or any Debian based Linux platform, so how can you install that? Simply, you just have to type two commands. The first one, which says sudo apt get update. What this will do is it will ensure that all of the packages inside your operating systems are well updated. And the next thing you have to do is you just have to replace that update word with install hashcat. This will ensure that the package or the tool you are installing is the latest one which is available on the server, right? If you have any other flavors of Linux, whether it be your Fedora, whether it be your CentOS or any RHEL based distros, then you can simply just copy paste or simply just type the commands I've listed over here in the table, and you are good to go. Then what if you have Arch Linux? Now Arch Linux is kind of tough if you are a beginner, right? So Arch Linux is basically a more terminal based operating system. And for that, you won't have any package like you just have to double click on it, then click on run, nothing like that. You have to purely rely on commands. And how to do that? The commands which I have listed over here are sufficient enough to get you started. So what about Mac OS? Now Mac OS also is like a Unix-based operating system. So it will definitely be reliant upon the commands. Or what you can do is if you find any sort of binaries which can run on Mac OS, then you can simply just download it and then you can run. Now, before I start the password cracking, now there are some resources I need to look out for. Why do I need these resources? Because these will greatly help you when you are, performing any password recovery or password cracking by any sense. Now, the first one is hash type preference. Now, what do I mean by hash type preference? I'll show you in a bit. The two files which you definitely need are John the Ripper jumbo files and Hashcat jumbo files. These two files are easily available on GitHub. You can directly, just copy this link and simply go on to GitHub and click on that code drop-down menu and just click on download as zip. And that is how you get all of those files on your system. Once that is done, these jumbo files actually contains some useful codes or useful information which will allow you to convert your normal file into a fixed hash. Thus, that hash will be, fed to Hashcat so that it can start attempting to break that password. Then before coming on to Hashcat and what all commands we can we can use on Hashcat to start with our password cracking, the basic syntax which Hashcat works upon is the first I have listed over here is Hashcat itself. You just have to type Hashcat. What this will do is this will call that particular tool. Then the next thing is the attack mode. Now, what is the attack mode? We'll discuss it in a bit. Then the third one is the hash type. Hash type is nothing but the profiles curated for certain type of hashes, which I've told you about, like MD4, MD5, and things like that. So, what if you have a file which has another type of hash, whether it has SHA-5 or 2 or MD5? So they have particular profiles or the profile numbers for that, which we will be using so that we can direct Hashcat what type of profile that tool needs to use in order to break that. Then after I have successfully called hashcat, I've specified the attack mode, I've specified the hash type. Then the next thing would be I need to specify where I have that file which is containing the hash of my original password protected file. And then at last, if you're using any word list, now word lists are basically pre-saved, passwords, such as if you're in an organization and you all have your organization laptops, and it is known that most of you use only like you use password as your password, like all in small, like PASSWRD, or you are using admin, or you're using 1234. So what this word list means, it is a textual base, a text document which contains each of these passwords in a separate line and in a clear text format, right? So, okay. So before I jump on to the next slide, let me just check if everything is visible to everyone. Okay, I guess yes, that it is, visible to everyone. Okay. Moving on to the next slide. So there are some useful flags. You might call it flags, or you might call it options, or whatever you feel like, which is important for, which is, easy to understand for you. You can call it that. I'll be calling it flags. So some useful flags for Hashcat I've listed over here. The first one is dash dash username. Why have I listed over here? We'll see in a bit, because it actually removes the header. Now, the header is something which identifies, or which tells the computer that this file is, created using this, and it is meant to be opened like this, right? So, Hashcat has no use of it. I'll be very blunt when I say that Hashcat has no use for it. It is only for us to determine what type of file do we have. So this dash dash username flag will actually help you to remove that unnecessary header so that hashcat doesn't, come across any sort of errors in between. Then you have dash O. Now this dash O is used to run hashcat in an optimized mode. Now, why do I need to use optimized mode? It might be the reason that what if you have some outdated drivers in your system, or your graphic card or your GPU, if I say correctly, is quite outdated in nature. So if any problem might occur in between the cracking process, hashcat might stop in between. So what you want to do is you want to use optimized mode so that none of those problems creep up in between. Then you have dash T. Now, when I say dash T means all of the available devices which will be used for password cracking. Before I go on to further, I would like to, explain you what this dash T does is you have a computer, right? So what all components a computer actually has, which is used for processing or which is being used by Hashcat. So the things are basically your CPU, which is known as a central processing unit, which actually makes your computer run. And you can see what all you are seeing right now on your mobile or whatever the thing might be. It is because of your CPU, right? Then you have your graphical processing unit, also known as GPU. Now that GPU can be solely dedicated, such as you might have heard of NVIDIA graphics card, right? Like NVIDIA series RTX 4000, 40 series, 30 series, 20 series, something like that, like GTX, or these are some dedicated graphical processing unit or graphics card, a layman would call it, right? Or if you're not aware of NVIDIA, you might have heard of AMD, right? AMD also makes graphics card also. So if you have these components residing in a computer, so when you launch Hashcat, Hashcat will automatically detect what all devices it can use in order to start your password cracking process. If I have a compatible CPU, so it will show me device one, my CPU name, device two, my GPU name, along with the at which bandwidth it is running upon, or the speed. Then coming on to the next flag, it is out file. Now this out file is solely based upon Like once the password has been cracked, you need a specific file where you don't always have to, go through the commands again and again. You just need a file which will be consisting of the hash of that particular password protected file. Also, the actual password that will be used to open that file. Then dash R. The dash R is basically set of rules that you can add along with your word list. It is basically, you can consider it as an extension or a power up, as you may call it, to your existing word list file. Right? Your existing word list file would be, you have certain passwords and your rules would be add 1, 2, 3, 4, add 0 to it, add something other than that, but to your word list. So it is actually powering it up. It is extending the functionality of your old word list. Then you have increment, this dash dash increment. Now this is very much helpful when you have no idea what password length you are targeting right now. You were just given a particular file, password protected file, and now you were just informed that I need to recover, I need to open this file, just get me that password. But nothing else was told to you, like what is the password length and what all things are there. So what you can do is you can just specify what is the minimum number, what is the minimum length of the password you're targeting, and what is the maximum number, right? Then coming on to the attack modes in Hashcat. Now, in this particular webinar, I'll be specifically talking about majorly two attack modes, which are your dictionary attack, also called as straight mode, or your wordless attack. Then you have combinator attack, which actually combines multiple word lists together. In a way, if one list is exhausted for some reason that the hashes are not matching this particular word list, instead of stopping, it will directly move on to the next word. Then you have brute force attack and mask attack. A brute force is something like you have a door, you do not have a key for it. The brute force would be you're breaking that lock, like whatever method you have, right? So you can consider brute force attack like that. Now, when I talk about dictionary attack, if I specify dash A, if you can see it in this slide over here, the attack mode is specifically specified with dash A. If I give it the value 0, it means I am starting a dictionary attack. I already have a compiled list with me, and I'll be using that attack. If I have provided a value of 1, it means I have multiple word lists with me, and I want to use them consecutively, so in order to break that fast. If I use the value 3, it means I'm not interested in dictionary. I'm not interested in, combining multiple word lists. I just want to go in raw, and I just want to start the brute force attack. Like try all the combinations, permutation combinations you can in order to break this password, right? So we'll be starting with the password breaking, you know, uh, activity or exercise over here. The first one for us is Microsoft Office documents. In this particular webinar, I'll be talking about Word and Excel. Then I'll be talking about PDFs, and then I'll be talking about zip files, right? Then we'll look on to the brute force section also for these particular files only. This particular, what you can do is whatever knowledge you're getting from this particular webinar, it is not only limited to Word and Excel or PDF or any zip file. You can similarly use these particular skill set to, crack password for different other files as well. It is not just limited to Word, Excel, PDF, or zip. Now, when I want, so let us, understand the cracking of password via an example over here or a scenario. Suppose you were given two files, out of which one is your Word file and the other one is Excel file. Both of these contain some very crucial, sensitive, or classified data of a particular organization, and it has been password protected. Okay. So you are conducting an internal investigation, and you were given a task of opening or recovering the password of this document. So as you can see, is it really classified or is it a general information which is being shared over the internet? So the first step in password recovery is actually obtaining the hash of a particular file, password protected file actually. Now, how can you do that? If you have any Microsoft Office documents such as Word or Excel, what you need to do is there is a specific file which is known as Office to John. Like if you remember, I just told you that there is jumbo file called John the Ripper jumbo file, right? This that folder actually contains this particular file which is written in Python. Therefore, I'm calling Python first, then I'm specifying the module inside this particular jumbo file which I want to use, and then I will be providing the password protected file. As you can see over here, the example which I stated, it says that I'm calling Python at first, then I'm specifying the type of module I want to use. Since it is a document, I will be using office to john dot. That dot .py stands for Python. Once that is done, I will be specifying my password file. In this case, it is password.docx. So below you can see once you have actually, initiated or executed this particular command, you will be presented by a hash over here, as you can see. Like if I zoom in a bit, I hope everyone can see that. If I zoom in a bit, you can see the dollar office, dollar star 2013, dollar, and a wide range of numerical values over here. So this is what you're looking for. Now, Hashcat wouldn't recognize this on the terminal itself. So what you can do is you can simply redirect this whole output to a separate file. How to do that? Simply just go back to this command once again, then add a greater than sign and add the file you want, the name of the file you want to create, and just add the extension .txt. What this will do is any output which is being created by this particular command will be redirected. This actually stands for redirection. So it will be redirected, the output will be redirected to this particular file you have created. Once that is done, the next step you would be doing is that you would be typing the following command in order to start the password cracking or the recovery attempt. Like, okay, this was a quite a big jump from like first we were looking at the hash value and then now we're coming at the recovery. So what in the first two steps were, first we determined what was the hash. Then after we got to know what the hash was, we simply redirected the output again to we redirected the output again to a specific file of our interest. Once that is done, now it is time that we can actually, start with the recovery process. Now, when I talk about the recovery process, I mean we can actually start employing the Hashcat's capabilities. Now, how to start with the password recovery attempt? If you remember the basic structure or the basic commands the Hashcat runs. So the first one is calling out Hashcat in its literal sense. You actually have to type the word Hashcat. How to know that Hashcat is installed on your system? If you see over here in Kali Linux, if I type out Hashcat, it turns into some bluish kind of text. It means that Kali has recognized that there is something with the name Hashcat installed on the system. So you know that yes, something is installed over there. Once you have called out Hashcat, you need to specify the M value or the hash type and the attack mode. These are the very important parts of your hashcat command. Okay, so since we actually have a word list with us, I'll be telling you what that word list is. Since we have a word list with us, so the attack mode I will be specifying over here is the value 0. 0 would tell Hashcat that I want to use the dictionary attack or the wordless attack, right? Once that is done, then what I want is this particular M value. How would I get this? The easiest way to get this is you basically go back to this particular hash you got, copy the first the first part from this particular hash which says dollar office dollar 2013. Copy this, go on to the resources which I have stated over here. Just a second. Yeah. So as I've stated this hash type reference, go to this particular link and simply click on find. and paste your particular header which you got. This will be corresponding to a certain number on the total left side, just like a serial number. That would be actually your module number, which you would be using for directing the hashtag that yes, I am targeting this particular data set. Don't worry, I'll be showing you how to do that. Once that is, you have specified the attack mode and the module. The next thing you need to do is you need to specify dash dash username. Why do you need to specify that? Because that dollar office dollar dash dollar star 2013, which you saw, is nothing but that header, which would be creating a hiccup for you when you'll start with the the cracking process. So I need to remove that. I want to eliminate that. So I'll simply specify dash dash username. Then dash O means I am starting my hash card in optimize mode. Then the next thing would be I have to specify the password or the hash file which I've created in the previous step. Where is that residing? It can be on your same folder, it can be somewhere else. If it is somewhere else, you need to specify the whole location. If you are in the same directory, then you do not need to specify the whole location, just specify the name of that particular file. Then the next thing would be you need to specify the word list you are employing in order to crack that password. In this particular case, I am using this word list known as rocku.txt. Now, a fun fact, Rocku was basically a company which was, I guess, it has been time which, since it was being it had been shut down, I guess. So it used to keep various password, and it was hacked by some specialized hackers or crackers, as you may call it. So once they hacked this Rocku company, they released all of the saved passwords they have in a clear text format to the general public. Since then, any password which was saved inside this Rocku company's repository, it is now being given to you as rocku.txt. Okay, so you specify the hash over here, the hash file over here, then you specify the word list. Once that is done, just click on enter, or just press enter, and your cracking process will start. So I'll just show you a video over here, which is something I've performed on my own. So on the right hand side, as you can see, is the uh, what do you call it? Is basically the hash type reference which I was showing you. You know, from where you'll refer to what module number you want to do. So the first thing I've done over here is I've listed out what all contents are within my particular folder. Then I find out where my these two folders, John Breeding Jumbo and hashtag are. The next step would be I would be going back. I would be going to my folder, which will be consisting this particular file. Now, what I need to do is now I have come on to the step where I want to find out the hash of the particular file, the particular password file I have. So I have written Python. Then I have actually called out all of the the file which it is containing. Then the next thing would be I have this document. Then I am redirecting it to the text file. Once that is done, as you can see over here, it has innocent text or innocent hash dot text. It has innocent. Okay, just a second. Let me just go back to it once again. Hmm. Okay, so all of the questions which are being asked right now, I'll be, coming on to them at the last of the session, at the very last, when I will be over with my this presentation right now. So coming on to this once again. So the Python it says over here, I am calling, I am basically calling the file over here which contains the office to john.py. Then the next thing would be I am specifying the document which I need to crack. Once that is done, I redirect my hash onto a file. After that, what I will be doing is I will be viewing whether the hash I have is visible to me or not. As you can see, it is quite visible to me over here, the highlighted part. Then what I'm targeting over here is the office, dollar office, and the dollar star 2013. Once that is done, I will be employing the hashcat over here. So what I'll do it, I'll simply just copy it. Then in the next part, what I'll do is I'll simply paste it and find out. So as you can see over here, it says 9600. So this is the module M I was talking about, right? So now I'll call hashcat. I'll specify this module number here with, and I'll be specifying the attack mode. I do not want this dollar office over here, so I'll be using dash username. Then I'll specify that this is my text, hash text, and this is the word list I'm using, in order to crack that. Once that is done, simply click on, you know, just simply click enter. And once that is done, what you can do is once that is done, you will be presented by a start when the cracking started, when the cracking stopped, right? With the time frame. Since over here, okay. So if you are presented by this particular screen as of now, so what you can do is it means that your cracking has already been done beforehand. It was completed in some other file or something like that. So Hashcat won't always, crack the same password again and again. Instead, it will save that particular hash into its own file. And then if it finds out that this particular file has the same hash as the previous one, so instead of starting the cracking, from the very starting, it will simply show you that all hashes found as pot file are and or are empty entries. What you can do is simply use dash dash show at the end of your command to show the particular file, the file password. In this particular case, the password which I used was simply a normal password like PASSWRD. So in this case, it was fairly easy for Hashcat to uh, crack that. So coming on to what if I have a PDF file, right? So for PDF file, first of all, what you need to do is you need to find out that which file inside these jumbo directories will be used in order to crack those or in order to get obtain those hashes from that particular file. In this particular case, if you want to target out PDF files, what you can do is you can simply use this PDF to john.pl file over here. Now, since this particular file has the extension .pl, this PL stands for Perl. Perl is nothing but another language which can be used to program a particular file or a code. So since this is a .pl file, I will be using Perl over here. So the command would now be Perl PDF to john.pl, and then I would be specifying my password file.pdf. Once that is done, you would be presented by the output. As you can see over here, I have added over example. Once that is done, now it is basically the same steps which are being repeated, which we looked upon in the previous slide or in the previous video. The next step would be you have to save this file to a text file, which can be used for password cracking. Once that is done, you have that password hash. The next thing would be again call out hashcat, specify the value that for this particular PDF or this particular header, the the M or the module or the hash type value is basically 10500. So use this particular value. Then in the attack mode, you are specifying the value 0. Then dash dash username just to get rid of that unnecessary header. Dash O for starting the hashcat in an optimized mode. Give it the hash which you have just created in step 2 and the password list which you have with you, for example, rock2.txt. Once that is done, you would be presented by this sort of window where Hashcat will start to, uh, attempt to crack this particular password. So if I dissect this particular screenshot over here, the first thing over here is Hashcat. The particular Hashcat version you're running is starting now. Then it is telling me that I am using a Debian based Linux environment or a Linux machine, then what sort of device is it using to crack the password is basically Intel Core i7 8700 CPU, right? Which is running at this much gigahertz and all. Then the next bit of information gives us that how much password length is my computer right now or my CPU right now capable of tackling. The minimum is 0 and the maximum is 32, the length of the password, right? Then hashes, like what all hashes or bitmap or rules does this particular hashcat supports. Then there are optimizers. Now these optimizers are basically, you know, uh, making sure that your hashcat does not run into a problem while cracking passwords. Then you have Watchdog. Watchdog is basically a part of hashtag or a part of your system command or work normal functioning, which, as you can see over here, it says temperature about trigger set to 90 degrees Celsius. It means while you are performing that password recovery or password cracking process, if your computer gets heated up to 90 degrees Celsius, so what this will do is it will stop the hashcat process there and then, and once the temperature comes back to normal or below 90 degrees Celsius, it will again start from the place where it stopped, right? And then what this will do is this will make sure that your computer does not overheat and cause problems to your hardware components. Then below you can see that what where the dictionary is residing, how much password does it have, how many how much space is it taking in my particular system, then the hash of the file which I'm trying to break, then what is the status, what is the session, what is the hash mode I'm using, and the start stop time, whether what was the progress when this particular hash this password was cracked. So if you see over here, once my password was cracked, you can see that $PDF over here. This $PDF has at the very right, it says password 123. It means this is the password of the file which will be used in order to unlock this file. Okay. So over here, I have another video just to showcase this particular functionality. How can you crack those PDF file? The next thing is over here, what I've done is when I write who am I, I'm just trying to make sure that as a user and am a normal user or a root user or a higher privileged user. Once that is done, I'll try to find out my file which I have over here. It says criminal.pdf. I want to crack this file. So what I'll do is I'll basically obtain the hash of that. As you can see, I just went into jumbo file. Over here, I'm just looking for any sort of file which can be used for cracking my this particular PDF. You can see I have highlighted the part PDF to john.pl. Once that is done, I will be traveling back to my original directory. As you can see, it says WL. Once that is done, I'll be employing the word Perl so that I can run this particular file. And then once that is done, I'll be redirecting it to a particular text file. Then moving on to the next step, I need to verify what is the module number or what is the hash of this particular file. So the module number which I will be using is 10500 in this particular case. Once that is done, I have identified that I will be writing hashcat. I will be specifying the module, the attack value, then I will be giving the file name and the word list file. Once that is done, just simply press enter, hashcat will start. And since I have already, I had the same password entered for this particular file, therefore it shows all hashes found as a pod file, are empty or they have some sort of value. So in order to show them, I will actually type dash as show. And as you can see over here, I've highlighted the the password as password. Now, what if, like, okay, I got to know how to crack PDF file password or Word or Excel. Now, what if I have a zip file? Now, if I have a zip file, first of all, what I need to do is I need to file the subsequent or the correct file which will be used to obtain that hash. So for zip file, you have zip to John. Call that zip to John. Give it your password protected zip file. Save the output to your customizable text file. Once that is done, you'll get an output such as I have listed over here, like a dollar zip to dollar then 030 something like that. Then simply just type the command once again, hashcat, that value, then the specify the attack mode, then give it the hash which you have just obtained in step one, and then just give it the word list you're using to crack that password. Once that is done, you will be presented by the password as you have seen in the previous videos. Now, come this was when you have a particular word list with you. What if you don't have a word list, you want to go in raw? So in that case, what method you will be applying is which is known as brute force. A brute force is basically, going through each and every combinations which can be used in order to find out that yes, this is the password for this particular file. So when I talk about brute force, particularly in Hashcat, so what Hashcat does is it has basically defined some character sets or char sets for each and every different, like for lowercase it has defined like a question mark L, which specifies that you any part the password the file which you are trying to break into has passwords in the lowercase characters from A to Z. What if it is consisting of all uppercase characters? In that sense, in that case you would be using question mark U. If your file has only numbers from 0 to 9, then you would be using D. D stands for digits. S stands for special characters like your space, exclamation mark, the hash sign, the dollar, the percentage. Any special characters will be included in question mark S. Then there is a special, a combining flag or character set which is called as comma A or question mark A. This A you can call it as all. Now all means that I do not know what this particular password consists of. All I know is that it might contain all of this. So in that case, what I'll do is instead of manually going through comma question mark L, U, D, S like that, I'll simply specify question mark A, which actually contains all of those combinations or all of those character sets within these defined modules above. And Hashcat has this ability also in order that it can actually, target out hex values also. What if your password is in hex? So you can simply use this question mark B in order to start that. Now, how will I do that? First of all, the basic before I start with Hashcat password recovery is I need to know the hash of this protected file. As I've repeated very, like a bunch of times now in my previous slides. So first of all, you need to find out the hash. Now that hash can be easily find out using the appropriate modules and the files you are using. Once that is done, save that to a document. Now the changes comes from here with on. Okay, from here on. So in the next step, what you have to do is you have to type the command hashcat, specify the value. Since I am right now, I am just cracking password of a document file. Therefore, I will be using the module number as 9600. Now the change comes over here. Like in the previous slides, we were seeing the value zero when along with the dash a flag. Over here, it is now 3. Now the value is nothing, but it is telling Hashcat that instead of using any other module, whether it be dictionary or something like that, simply go on to the brute force module. Now, once I have specified that, what I'll do is I'll just clear out all of the unnecessary data, such as your header, the username and all. I want Hashcat to not go run into any sort of errors while running into brute force, because brute force is something which will consume all of your resources. You need to note this down, that brute force actually takes, first of all, it takes a lot of time, because it is actually going through each and every hash subsequently. It is trying all of those combinations. The next thing is that it will actually consume all of the bandwidth of your particular device you're using to crack your password. Meaning, if you're using your CPU, for example, it will actually consume 90% of your CPU resources, right? Or if you're using your graphical processing unit or graphics card or GPU, as you may call it, it will make sure that each and every drop of the resources or the bandwidth of that GPU is being consumed for your password recovery or password cracking. So over here, once I've specified the attack mode to be 3, I will remove that unnecessary data like username and I'll optimize that. Then I'll give the password hash which I've obtained. And the next step, as you can see, question mark A, question mark A, question mark A, it is basically that I beforehand I was told that that this particular file has a password length of 8 characters, for example. So I'll write question mark A 8 times. What this means is that I do not know what the password consists of, but I know I have this much information that I can that the password length is 8. So try each and everything you can for this particular length. So once it starts, you can see this is the same as our previous screenshot which I've shown you over here. Then let us start with our brute force. Now, when I talk about brute force, the first thing would be pretty basic. Again, who am I? Then where I currently stand in particular Kali Linux right now. So I'll be writing pwd for that. Once that is done, I'll go into uh, the file, the folder which is containing the file. In this case, it is culprit1.docx. Now I want to crack the password of this particular file. I found out that this is an office document. I'll simply give it the file name like office to John. Again, I am just obtaining the hash over here. Once that hash is done, you can see it says culprit1 hash.txt or text. I'll make sure that does it contain any hash within it or not, or is it an empty file which has been created. So I'll use cat for that. Once that is done, I'll simply copy Office and 2013 over here and simply paste onto my example hashes or my hashcat reference, which I have, told you in our previous slide. Once that is done, I'll find out this 9600 module number, after which I'll simply type the command hashcat. I'll specify the module number, attack mode, and I'll give the hash, the hash text. And now I have to be very careful when I'm starting with the brute forcing. Why? Because as you can see, I was about to mention the word list, but since it is not a word list attack, it is a brute force attack. So I need to specify what type of character set I need to use over here, right? And what should be the length of that character set. So as you can see, I am specifying like from question mark A. It means try each and everything you have within your tool so that I can get my password. Once that is done, it will start. I'll just stop this for a second over here. As you can see, it says device one. The device, the minimum and the maximum password length supported by the kernel. Kernel is the lowest level of the communication between your hardware and your software. It enables you to talk between from your software to your hardware communication, right? So then what sort of optimizers you have applied over here? What is the temperature trigger which has been set? Once that is done, it will ask you, it is initializing the backend runtime. Once that is done, it will start to auto tune and start with the uh, what do you call it, the cracking process. Now the cracking process, if it takes a lot of time, it will present you with options such as status, pause, bypass, checkpoint, finish, and quit. So it will not automatically update you like, yeah, this is the current process. You have to press S again and again in order to view the latest status of the file. As you can see, since I was trying like question mark A, it means I am trying for all of the character sets. As you can see, the estimated time over here, it says next big bang. So this is the thing you need to keep in mind, like the complexity of the password you're trying to break. If you have password which only consists of lowercase, make sure not to include question mark A, because it will automatically increase your time. Next thing, always when you are trying to use Hashcat, make sure you have a graphics card with you, right? Why? Because graphics processing unit or graphics card will make sure that the entire load of the cracking process is not on your CPU rather than it is on your GPU itself. So the minimum load it will be on your CPU, it will be much better, right? Also, your graphics processing unit GPU has a huge memory bandwidth, as you may have heard of. Like you have graphics card going from the range of like 4 GBs to all the way to server level. Graphics card having 40 GBs or 80 GBs of memory within them, right? So since they have a lot of memory bandwidth with them, you would want that I that you would want to use those GPU instead of your CPU, right? That will be much quicker, and you will be able to recover your password much at a very fast rate. So I'll just show you that how much time does it take. As you can see over here, it still says estimated time is 1600 years because I was running it on my CPU and not my GPU itself. Okay, so this was all about the password recovery.